you're without your number 2 guy, Grayson Rodriguez. So do we have a little update, I believe, on him? Do you have it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, I know what it is.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
So Grayson is going back to Baltimore to get further imaging and evaluation done. Obviously, the Orioles ended up scratching him from the start, and it was lat teres, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Discomfort in there. So obviously, we know that lat injuries and pitchers do not get along very well.
It's the injury he had last year.
Yes, and he missed what? 2 months?
It was like 2 months of game time.
Yeah, 2 to 3 months. So, man, I mean, looking up and just again, I am not a doctor. I want to disclose that, but looking up and I'll pull it back up. But
appreciate it.
For lat sprains, where's my thing? Lat strain recovery. Here we go. So grade 1 lat strains, if that's what it is, usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks, right? And then for him getting back into rhythm and whatnot. Grade 2 is usually a month or a little bit more, anywhere from like 4 to 6 weeks ish, month and a half. Grade 3, it's done. That's surgery usually, and that's like 6 to 9 months. Like that's worst case scenario here. So
and hopefully they caught it.
Yeah. So again, we don't know. Obviously, like if it was a grade 3, I feel like he would have like felt it before, and like it would have been a bigger deal than it was, right? Like we can hopefully say that's the case, but it's tough because the Orioles have already lost 3 starters for the season. The issue though is we're not in May, we're not in April, we are at the beginning of August, and a 4 to 6 week recovery time if it's a grade 2 puts you right at the beginning to end of September. Probably be back for the playoffs by that point, but I also think the Orioles probably want to be cautious, right? You don't want to rush a guy back from this thing and have it get worse than it is. So it's a very difficult situation. We don't know what it is. It could even not be a strain. Like we don't even know if it is a strain or not. They didn't say anything about anything. We're just trying to say like, if it is this, these are the recovery times. So hopefully it's just a little bit of discomfort. The imaging doesn't show anything, and that's good if that's the case, because then it's just like, okay, maybe he rests for a start rotation or 2. And then he's back in there. But Zach, the Orioles cannot afford to lose Grayson Rodriguez. I mean, again, you mentioned Zach Eflin looks so big now. So big.
Yeah.
Because you still have a guy who can slot in.
And who we got to talk about him. Everyone's going to say Trevor Rogers. Obviously, you need him to now step up massively. But if Zach Eflin's your number 2, Dean Kramer's got to start game 3 of the playoffs like that, and you're gonna have to have Dean step up, and Dean has pitched well. We see Dean go in stretches where he looks like a top 2 to 3 starter on this team. You're just going to need for Dean to put together one of those stretches again. It just, that's what's going to happen. Like you said, it's not May. There's no more trade deadline. You can't go out and get anyone. Chase McDermott just got put on the minor league IL yesterday, so that's not an option. Thank God. I know some people won't like it. Thank God Cole Irvin didn't get picked up by anyone, So,
yeah. I mean, it's just tough because like Grayson has been generally consistent, not every single start, but generally very consistent. And he's the guy after Corbin where you're like, all right, like you trust that guy usually.
Yeah, I agree. Suarez is now, especially with Grayson, Suarez, congrats.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. I think that's the case. And then I guess you do call Irvin back up as the long man. And all right, here's the other question, though, because if we're just talking, well, let's finish off with Grayson first.
Roll Dons.
Okay. But for Grayson, you need him, but you also need him for your future. We're all talking about this year, though. But if Grayson gets rushed back or he comes back too early and this thing messes up even further, if it is something that's, serious, you don't want that. You have to kind of live by playing the cautious route, unless it is something where you can go out there and be effective. If this is a pain tolerance issue, that's a different story, right? If it's a pain tolerance thing, Grayson's a tough guy. Grayson can go out there. But if this is injured, and if you pitch anymore, it's going to either tear completely or there's going to be something else that happens and you're going to risk next year time. The Orioles are already dealing with next to your time with Kyle Bradish and all these other guys, you don't want to add another name to that list. So it's super unfortunate timing. This team looked like it had gotten it back together against the Guardians. And again, I don't think that the season's over and the sky is falling, right?
They might have to
Could be Jim.
Yeah.
Could be.
And I know the comments are always, when we come to starting pitching, it's always going to bring up Trevor Bauer. Listen, I don't see any way the Orioles sign Trevor Bauer. No matter what we think, no matter what the fans think, I don't think Trevor Bauer gets signed by the Orioles. I just see very little to no chance that Elias, if they would have already done it. You know, I feel like once you lost Means, Wells, and Bradish, like you would have made a move then. Like I just don't see a move for Bauer happening from this team, even with a Grayson Rodriguez. It just feels like if he was going to get picked up this season, it would have definitely already happened, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think they're going to probably roll with what they have at this point.
Yeah.
And look, it's with injuries, it's not a lot anymore. Like Zach, this and me being a Ravens guy here and like covering the Ravens, it reminds me of the Ravens cornerback room every single season, where it's like we start the year talking about how this team is flush with cornerback depth, and by the end of the season, we're like, man, they have 2 healthy corners left. But we talked about how with the starting rotation before the season, it was, they're 7 deep, right? They have Burns and Rodriguez and Bradish and Means and Kramer, and then you got Wells and Irvin on the back end, like just waiting to start. And now you're down. If Rodriguez misses time, you are down to 2 of your original 5 starters. That is an injury-plagued season for a team that could have afforded a couple of injuries here and there.